We were privileged tonight, we were blessed to listen to the entire 27th para of the Noble Quran. But in the Witr Salah, in the first rakat, we heard a snippet of the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. So this was the part where, after he was thrown into the well, see, the one brother, he had misgivings about the whole thing. So because he didn't want to go against the rest, he used to bring food to Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam in secret and lower it into the well. So at this part of the story, the part that we heard in Witr Salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. So a group of travelers came by and they sent the person who is in charge of getting water and provisions and stuff like that, they sent him. فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, he lowered his bucket because they took the bucket away, the one that stays at the well, so that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam would have no chance of coming out. In any case, this brother was coming in secret and giving food to Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. These people who were traveling, they came, they lowered their own bucket, and when they brought it out, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was in the bucket. So when this happened, they decided that they will keep Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam as a slave, and they can decide what to do with him later. So at this juncture, the brother who was bringing the food, he came and he realized that no more Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam is talking to him in the well. So when he's lowering food, nobody is receiving it. So he went back and told the other brothers that in actual fact, over the past few days, I have been taking food in secret. But now it seems like Yusuf has died, referring to Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. So they all went to go and check. And when they got there, they found this caravan, this group of people over there, and they found that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was with them. So they told him that this boy who you have, he's a slave of ours, and he ran away. So actually, he is ours. So those people said, we found him, so he is ours. So eventually they decided on a deal. Those travelers, the caravan, they said, we'll keep him. How much do you want for him? In some kitabs of tafsir, it is mentioned 18 coins, in others 40 coins that they sold him for and split it amongst all of them. And they thought to themselves, if we sell him, all the better, because then he'll completely leave this land. In any case, 40 years later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam permission to make contact with his father. So he was in the well, which wasn't very far from his home, and his father knew nothing about him. 40 years later, when Allah Ta'ala gave him permission, he told his brothers, take this kurta of mine and put it on my father's face. And when you do that, his sight will come back. So when they left Egypt, they were almost 8 days away from where Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam lives. But as soon as they left, Allah Ta'ala tells us, he said, Inni la ajidu riha Yusuf. I can get the fragrance of Yusuf. So this is again the wisdom of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how He engineers what seems to be difficulties in our lives. So Allah Ta'ala designed it like this. He was in the well, which wasn't very far from the home, and Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam knew nothing of him. He was 8 days away in a totally different country, and he hadn't even moved from there. His clothes had moved. And Allah Ta'ala gave Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam the ability to perceive that this was his son, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. In most kitabs of tafsir, it is mentioned that after Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam reunited, he lived for another 20 years. And he had passed away after that in Egypt as well. Nonetheless, tonight we heard the 27th juz of the Noble Quran. Yesterday in the 26th para, the last surah, it continues into the 27th. So in that last surah, one of the incidents that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions is when Malaika came to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam to meet him, but they came in the form of humans as visitors. Now, these Malaika, when they came to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, we remember his story all the way from the 17th para. When he was thrown into the fire, he was quite young. According to some kitabs of history, he was 13 years old. At this point in time, the Malaika, Allah Ta'ala gave them permission to go and ask Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam if he wants their help. And he replied, Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illahu. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for me. So in any case, we know that he survived the fire. He didn't burn in the fire. his nephew, Nabi Lut alayhi salam, so he wasn't a Nabi at that time, so he was just known as Lut at that time. So his nephew, on seeing him come out of the fire unburnt, unharmed, he brought Iman in Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. So, and later on he would become a Nabi himself, Nabi Lut alayhi salam. So in this incident, in the 26th para, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was now 100 years old. And these angels stopped by his house as guests, but they didn't tell him what they were doing there. But in reality, later on they revealed it to him, they were on their way to mete out the punishment to the people of Nabi Lut alayhi salam. So you can see how their stories sort of overlap, so to speak. And also at the same time, they gave Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam glad tidings of a son. And this son was Sayyiduna Ishaq alayhi salam, who was going to be born. So that is mentioned over here in this, in the 26th para. He was 100 years old and his wife was 99 years old. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us again, when Allah ta'ala designs something, it happens. It doesn't matter what falls around it. It doesn't matter what the world thinks about it. If He decrees it, it occurs. Like the life of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, like the fire not burning Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, like Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam being blessed with children at such an old age, which generally people would think is not the time for having a child. And Nabi Zakaria alayhi salam, he also made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in old age for a child. And his reasoning was, and Allah ta'ala mentions it in the Quran, Lam akum bi du'aika rabbi shaqiyya. I am making dua, and to the onlooker it might not make sense, because he said, وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. My hair has been kindled, like how fire kindling, eventually when fire dies down, wood or charcoal or anything like that, it has a certain tinge of whiteness to it. So he said, that's the tinge that's here in my hair. وَهَنَ الْعَزْمِ, my bones have become weak. But lam akum bi du'aika rabbi shaqiyya. I've never been let down by asking you. I've never ever been rejected. I've never ever been at a loss. So Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua was also answered in this way. And then the malaika told him, and we read that in the 27th juz onwards, that they were going to punish the people of Nabi Lut alayhi salam. And their punishment was twofold. One was musawwamatan inda rabbik. They were pelted with stones. Musawwama, they were marked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the kitabs of tafsir, it is mentioned that not only did each stone that was going to fall on these people have a distinct mark, but also each stone had the name of the person it was going to kill. And if the person went right, the stone went right. And if it went left, if the person went left, the stone went left. So it followed each person until it killed him. So like that, Allah Ta'ala is showing us the extent of His adhab. Once it is decreed, it happens at all costs. No matter what situations may prevail, no matter how seemingly impossible it may be, if it is decreed, it is done. And then the second punishment was, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam lifted the entire land on which they lived, turned it over and brought it back down into the ground. So this was the punishment that Allah Ta'ala mentions here. And then further on in the same surah, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that people, mankind, jinn kind have been created primarily for the ibadah of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. That's the primary reason. And then Allah Ta'ala says, Ma uridu minhum mir rizq. I don't ask them for sustenance in any way. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَيُّطْعِمُونَ. I have never asked them, I don't want them to feed me. So it is as if Allah Ta'ala is saying, everything is given to you, all you have to do is make ibadah. You don't have to give me your money, you don't have to give me your food. In the kitabs of tafsir it is mentioned that a person will think that, but I give zakah, but I read salah. But he must think, he must understand, all of that is for his benefit alone. So a person gives zakah or sadaqah in this world, Allah Ta'ala repays him in the akhirah, inshallah. But it doesn't benefit Allah Ta'ala in any way. A person keeps fast the whole day or the whole month or the whole year, it doesn't help Allah Ta'ala in any way. So Allah Ta'ala says, I'm not asking man to sustain me. I'm not asking man to feed me in any way. All man has to do is make the ibadah that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has prescribed. Then further on in the same surah, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, for those people who've transgressed the limits, meaning they have passed the boundaries now in transgression, they have overdone it, as we would say. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, for them is dhanuban mithla dhanubi ashabihim. Now, dhanub with a fatha is a massive bucket that you get placed into a well. Now, what would happen in this kind of well is there would be a very, very big bucket. It wouldn't be practical to carry such a bucket everywhere. So that bucket would be fixed in the well. So you would go there with your small bucket, pull up the big one, empty a little into your small one, and then carry on. And then the next person would come, he would also pull from that main bucket and carry on. So Allah Ta'ala is using this as a reference to the adhab of people, like how people wait in line, collect water and go, the same way adhab will come to people. So this adhab, once it is decreed, it will come misla dhanubi ashabihim, like how their companions before, meaning the people who challenged the anbiya, the people who disbelieved before. This dhanub is literally people waiting in a line to go and collect. So the turn will come. That is what Allah Ta'ala is saying. Dhunub with a dhamma is used to mean sins. And dhanub with a fatha is the bucket that is used in a big well. In ancient times this was used. Further on, then the surah changes to Surah Tur, and there's quite a few surahs now in all these paras, and many of them you'll recognize from Salah as well, Fajr Salah especially. And in Surah Tur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes a number of oaths. So he says, وَالطُّورِ وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ. So first he takes an oath by the Tur Sayna, the mountain where Nabi Musa alayhi salam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Then وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ, according to most of the kitabs of tafsir, he is taking an oath by the Quran. Then وَالسَّقْفِ الْمَرْفُوعِ, by the sky. And some say that the roof, saqf literally means roof. The roof isn't the sky, it is the arsh, because we are all beneath the arsh. Even Jannah, Jannatul Firdaus, it is beneath the arsh. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath by the sky and by the arsh as well. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, wal bahril masjur, the ocean that is churned up. In the kitabs of tafsir it is mentioned that when Qiyamah comes, the ocean will be churned so much that eventually it will only be fire. And this fire will surround the people on the mahshar, on the plains of Qiyamah where they have to stand. On the edges will be this fire that is the ocean. So the oceans of the earth will be turned into oceans of fire. And then Allah Ta'ala qualifies all of these oaths. Because if somebody is taking an oath or two oaths or three oaths, what are they saying? Why are they taking the oath? So he takes all of these oaths, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also takes an oath by Al-Baytul Ma'mur, the Kaaba which Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he saw when he went on Mi'raj. He saw it in the seventh sky. This is the Kaaba of the Malaika. So it is above the Kaaba, our Kaaba. It is above that, but all the way up in the seventh sky, that is where Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was seen by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam seated with his back against the Kaaba. 70,000 Malaika will make tawaf of that Kaaba every day, and they won't get a chance to go back. The Baytul Ma'mur. So all of these oaths Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes, and then he says, Inna adhaba rabbika lawaqi'. The punishment of Allah is going to fall. It is a given. It's done. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu an, once he read this surah, and when he reached this part, he became sick for 3 weeks. And people will come and visit him and they don't even know what's happening to him. And after that he told them, look at how many oaths are being taken. And then Allah Ta'ala tells us, and this is referring to the day of Qiyamah, the punishment of Qiyamah will come. Then further on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions various rules pertaining to the behavior of people, the people of the past. Sayyidina Jubair ibn Mut'im radiallahu an, he wasn't a Muslim at first, and once he came, it was I think just after the time of the Battle of Badr. So he wasn't a Muslim, and he wanted to come and negotiate with Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam about something. And it was at the time of Maghrib Salah. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam read these same ayat of Surah Tur in Maghrib Salah. And he was outside, but he could hear it. And he mentioned that at that point when I heard this, and obviously they could understand it, when I heard this, I felt like punishment will fall on me right now and my heart will burst into pieces if I don't accept Islam. So this was the status of a kafir who heard the words of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he accepted Iman. Then further on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, wa Ibrahim alladhi waffa. He is the one who fulfilled the deal, the contract, the obligation that he undertook with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned that apart from the fact that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam did everything that Allah ta'ala told him, if you remember in the 21st para, I mentioned the dhikr, فَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ حِينَ تُمْسُونَ وَحِينَ تُصْبِحُونَ. Up until the end of the ayah, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned, he is known as Ibrahim who fulfilled the covenant because he used to read the dhikr once in the morning and once in the evening. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us again about the day of Qiyamah, and He says, اِقْتَرَبَتِ السَّاعَةُ وَانْشَقَّ الْقَمَرُ. The next surah. Allah ta'ala says, the time has come close, the time for Qiyamah, and the moon has also been split. So this refers to the incident where the people of Makkah, they wanted proof from Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. How do we know you are the Nabi of Allah? So with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He indicated with His finger. Mount Hira was there, and one half of the moon was on one side and the other half was on the other side. So it was a clear physical split. There are other historical records of rulers of other countries noting down them seeing the moon being split at a certain point in time. But nonetheless, it is a proven fact that this is what occurred with Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And the commentators of Quran teach us that the fact that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam came is in itself a sign of Qiyamah. Once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it known to the world that this is the final Nabi, that is one sign of Qiyamah. The splitting of the moon, again another sign of Qiyamah, which came at the hands of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. Then in Surah Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again draws many parallels between this life, the life of the Akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that everything that is here, kullu man alayha fan, all of it is temporary, it will all expire, it will all come to nothing. All that will remain is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Earlier on in the Quran we read, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. Whatever is by you will expire. Whatever is by you will deteriorate. But whatever is by Allah, that lasts forever. So when we do a'mal as well, we do it with the niyyah that inshaAllah, if we preserve these a'mal, we look after them, Allah ta'ala will look after them for us and give them back to us on the day of Qiyamah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ar-Rahman, يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ. The criminals on the day of Qiyamah, they will be known. They will have marks on their faces telling you that these are the mujrims. Literally, these are the criminals. فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاسِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. Now this is nawasi, this part here of a person's head. So they will be seized by this part. The malaika will grab them by this part so that their faces will be on the floor, and that is how they will drag them into Jahannam. Others will be dragged by their feet. Early on in the 18th juz, in the commentary I mentioned over there, that some people, their hands and feet will be tied together, and that is how they will be thrown into Jahannam. So over here in some kitabs of tafsir, it is mentioned that the people who, once they are announced, in Surah Yasin we read, وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. Become clear, become separate, all the criminals. So they will all be separated. So in the kitabs of tafsir it is mentioned that once this announcement is made and a person knows that he is a criminal, then his face will change color. And Allah Ta'ala will decree it such that their eyes will all become blue. So all of the mujrims will have these blue, completely blue eyes, but it won't be blue in the sense of how we have blue eyes in this world. It will be completely blue, almost blackish, leaning towards blackish. And this will be a sign of the punishment of Allah Ta'ala on these people. May Allah Ta'ala save us from such an outcome in this world and on the day of Qiyamah. Then further on, Surah Waqi'ah then was recited. Surah Waqi'ah, it's famously known, it is a sunnah of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam to recite the surah at night. A person who recites the surah according to the hadith, then poverty, excessive need, or a state of need will not come upon this person, inshaAllah. So it's something to make a habit of reciting. In a 15-line Quran, it's 1, 2, 3, about 3.5, less than 4 pages. So it's not very, very long. If we make a habit of reciting it, inshaAllah, the more regularly we read it, the more fluent we will become in it. So in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the blessings of Jannah, the blessings that the people of Jannah will enjoy. And then towards the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, فَلَوْلَا تُصَدِّقُونَ. Why do you not believe? So what more do you want? You've heard all of this. You've seen the splitting of the moon, or you've heard about the splitting of the moon in our case. All of this has happened. But what more is it that you need in order to believe? In some kitabs of history, it is mentioned that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the last salah he performed, he read Surah Al-Mursalat, which is the last surah of the 29th para. And the last ayah of that surah is, فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَهُ يُؤْمِنُونَ. After this, what else do you want in order to believe? What more do you need in order to believe? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here in Surah Al-Waqi'ah that if the people believe that they have power, if they believe they are not going to go back to Allah, فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. When you see إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ, when you see a person's soul reaching his throat, because that is how the soul leaves the body. So the feet become cold first, he loses ability in his legs, he loses ability in his hands, he loses his voice, and well, that's the end. After that, the soul is pulled out like this from the top. So when it reaches over here, Allah Ta'ala says, when it reaches the throat, if you believe that you are not going to go back and pay by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for everything, meaning you don't believe in His existence, تَرْجِعُونَهَا, send it back. Make that soul go back. It's reached here already. Put it all the way back down. And then Allah Ta'ala tells us, فَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ مِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ, if that person was from the close ones, فَرَوْحُ وَرَيْحَانٌ, then that person will get comfort and he will get the Rayhan of Allah. Rayhan has many meanings. One of those is the sustenance of Allah. People used to say before in kitabs of tafsir, خَرَجْتُ أَبْتَغِي رَيْحَانَ اللَّهِ, I go out looking for the Rayhan of Allah, for the sustenance of Allah. Also it means, Ruh means comfort. It means serenity. So Allah Ta'ala will give those people that. وَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ, if they are from the people who will stand on the right side of the arsh of Allah, فَسَلَامٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ, then they will find peace. But Allah Ta'ala tells us, if you're not from those two categories, if you are from the third category, فَنُزُلٌ مِّنْ حَمِيمٍ, then you give them the boiling water of al-hamim. And Allah Ta'ala mentions that is the tasliyatu jahim. That is the entertainment for the people of Jahannam, that they will get boiling water that they must drink. And this boiling water will cause everything inside of them to melt and it will leave their body. And then they will get some more of it and they will need to continue drinking it. May Allah Ta'ala save us from such an outcome. May Allah Ta'ala bless us with entry into Jannah. And may He make us from the people of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in the akhirah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.